A homicide investigation that has stumped Lawton detectives for years.
Tonight in a special report, 7 News reporter Allie Haddikin takes a closer look at the unsolved murder of Michael Carter.
Lawton detectives know what happened to Michael at the apartment he just moved into 2 months before his death. But the questions of who killed Michael and why this happened are still a mystery.
I told him I didn't think it was a good idea to move to Lawton. He asked me why, and I told him, I said, because there's just too much crime in Lawton. Someone's always getting killed. He told me, he says, Mom, don't worry about me, I'll be okay. I'm moving to the good part of town. And so he moved, and it was 2 months later, he was killed.
In 2013, Michael Carter moved out of his mother's Altus home and headed for Lawton. Friends invited him to move into their new apartment on the west side of town and work at a restaurant in Medicine Park that paid well. The former Altus football player, full of energy and opportunity, jumped at it. Things were going well. But then April 25th came.
I mean, it happened extremely fast. Our officers were there quick. People called 911 quick, but the perpetrators basically got there, did it, and left.
Detective David Shucker was called to the crime scene that evening. Michael's 2 roommates were at work. It was around 5. It was still light out. A knock at the door. Michael answered. A gunshot, then 2 more. Shucker says they know marijuana was brought to the apartment the night before. That led to a key point in the investigation.
I can tell you that we don't think Mr. Carter was actually the target. I think somebody came to the house looking for somebody else, and they killed Mr. Carter by mistake.
What troubles detectives on this case to this day is the amount of information they have with no suspect to show for it. At these apartments where Michael was killed, there were witnesses in the parking lot. There were neighbors who poked their heads out as shots rang out. And there were also people who rushed to police as they pulled in the parking lot yelling, "They went that way." The shooter drove off that way. As we know, the shooter was never found.
His friend Tatum had called me at 2 in the morning of the 26th of April, and I answered the phone, and she asked me, she said, "What happened to Michael, Mom? What happened to Michael?" And I said, "I don't know. What are you talking about, Tatum?" And she said, "Something terrible, you know," and she said, "You need to get on Facebook." So I got on Facebook and went to Michael's Facebook page, and I saw a bunch of "Rest in peace" and "I'm gonna miss you, bro," and that's how I found out my son was gone. At that moment, I was completely numb, and there wasn't much going on in my head other than, this can't be real. This is still not real, and I was like a zombie just going with the flow. 3 of them all together. That's one of my favorites. As the years go by, it just gets harder because the family so desperately want and need that closure. And it's just hard to sit back and wait.
For detectives, waiting is all they can do in a case like this. Wait and relive.
You know, I have spent days where I just sit down and read it over and over again. What have I missed? You know, what's the piece that's missing? How can I find out? What do I need to do next?
But with Shucker and the new job in the department, Lawton Police Detective Aaron Malloy is new on the Carter case, but they are still investigating. Malloy and Shucker chased down a fresh lead at the end of 2016.
We've got a lot of players that we've looked at. We've got a lot of leads that we've ran on, but we're back to square one, and we need somebody to give us that lead that says this is the path we need to go down.
To solve this case, someone with information about that day needs to come forward.
I also think people need to stop and think, I mean, if this was your son or your daughter, what would you want someone to do when you want someone to speak up and say something?
Michael's murder can be solved. It just takes one person. Call Crime Stoppers of Southwest Oklahoma at 580-355-INFO. You can stay anonymous, and if that tip leads to an arrest in the case, you can pick up a cash reward, no questions asked. Allie Haddikin, 7 News.